The question fell into the room like a stone dropped into still water. Conversations stopped. Papers froze mid-air. Even the quiet hum of the office printers seemed to fade. At the center of the conference room stood a man in a worn gray shirt, his hands trembling slightly as he held his daughter's tiny backpack. Across from him, the powerful CEO stared at the little girl standing beside him, her bright eyes wide with curiosity. Then the CEO spoke again, his voice quieter but sharper this time. "Why does your daughter look like me?" The room felt colder. The employees watching the scene exchanged uneasy glances. No one expected the single father's answer to change everything, not just for the CEO, but for everyone in that building. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share this story, and subscribe to the channel Whisper Tales 3. Your support helps keep meaningful stories like this alive. The man standing there was named Adrian Cole, a janitor who had worked in the towering glass headquarters of Hartwell Industries for nearly 3 years. Adrian's life had never been easy. Every morning before sunrise, he would walk through the quiet city streets holding the hand of his 6-year-old daughter, Mira. They would pass glowing bakery windows and empty bus stops until they reached the huge corporate building where Adrian worked. While other employees arrived in expensive cars, Adrian came through the service entrance pushing a cleaning cart. Mira would sit quietly in the small break room with a coloring book while her father cleaned offices and hallways. It wasn't a perfect arrangement, but it was the only way Adrian could keep his job while raising his daughter alone. Life had changed forever 6 years earlier on a rainy evening when Adrian's wife passed away shortly after giving birth to Mira. The hospital lights had felt painfully bright that night, and Adrian remembered holding the tiny baby in his arms while grief crushed his chest. In that moment, he made a silent promise that he would give the little girl every ounce of love he had left. From that day on, Mira became his entire world. Despite their struggles, Mira grew up cheerful and curious. She loved drawing pictures of tall buildings and big cities. She often asked Adrian what happened inside the offices he cleaned every night. Adrian would smile and tell her stories about important meetings and people solving big problems. To Mira, the building felt like a mysterious castle. One afternoon, something unusual happened. Adrian was cleaning the executive conference floor when Mira wandered a little too far from the break room. She followed the sunlight spilling through the enormous glass windows and found herself standing outside a large meeting room filled with sharply dressed executives. That was when Victor Hartwell noticed her. Victor Hartwell was the billionaire founder and CEO of Hartwell Industries, a man known for his sharp mind and colder personality. Employees respected him, but very few felt comfortable around him. Years of relentless business decisions had built an invisible wall around his life. When he saw the little girl standing outside the glass wall of the conference room, he paused mid-sentence. Something about her face caught his attention immediately. Her eyes. They looked hauntingly familiar. Victor stepped out of the room slowly, studying the child with growing confusion. A few moments later Adrian came rushing down the hallway, panic written all over his face as he gently took Mira's hand and apologized for the interruption. That was when Victor looked at both of them carefully. His gaze moved from Mira's face to Adrian's, then back again. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. Victor's voice broke the silence. "Why does your daughter look like me?" The question echoed through the hallway as executives began gathering near the doorway. Adrian didn't react with anger or fear. Instead, something heavy moved across his face, like a memory long buried finally rising to the surface. He took a deep breath and looked directly at the powerful man standing before him. The truth was something Adrian had carried quietly for years. Before life became a cycle of night shifts and unpaid bills, Adrian's wife had worked as a nurse at a small private clinic. One winter night, a terrified young woman had been rushed in after collapsing outside during a snowstorm. She had been pregnant and alone, with no identification and no family nearby. The doctors did everything they could, but the woman was gravely ill. During the chaos of that night, she gave birth to a baby girl. Her condition worsened rapidly, and before she passed away, she whispered only one request. "Please let my daughter have a family." There had been no records, no relatives, and no one to claim the child. Adrian and his wife had looked at the tiny newborn and felt something powerful in their hearts. They made the decision that would define their lives forever. They adopted her. Adrian looked down at Mira gently as he spoke those words. The hallway had become completely silent. He explained that they never knew who the baby's biological parents were. The clinic had closed months later, and the files were lost during the transfer. But Adrian and his wife never cared about bloodlines or wealth. To them, Mira was simply their daughter. And she always would be. Victor Hartwell stood motionless, absorbing every word. Memories he had locked away for years suddenly flooded back. 6 years earlier, he had loved a woman named Lila, a brilliant artist who hated the cold world of corporate power. Their relationship had been passionate but complicated. When she disappeared without explanation, Victor believed she had simply chosen a different life. He never knew she had been pregnant. The realization struck him like lightning. His eyes slowly returned to Mira, who was now holding Adrian's hand and smiling shyly at the tall stranger staring at her. In that moment, the powerful CEO of a billion-dollar company looked less like a titan of industry and more like a man discovering a missing piece of his soul. But Adrian's next words changed everything. He said that no matter who Mira's biological father might be, she already had a dad. A dad who held her when she cried at night, who packed her school lunches, who walked her to work every morning because he couldn't afford childcare. A dad who promised her mother he would protect her with his life. The building's wealthiest man stood face to face with the poorest employee in the company, and for the first time Victor Hartwell understood something that money could never buy. Fatherhood wasn't about genetics. It was about love. Victor didn't try to take Mira away. Instead, something remarkable happened. In the weeks that followed, he quietly arranged for Adrian to receive a promotion to building operations manager. He ensured Mira would have access to the best education, healthcare, and opportunities imaginable. But he never tried to replace Adrian. Instead, Victor slowly became something new in Mira's life, an unexpected mentor, a friend, and eventually a second kind of family. Years later, when Mira stood on stage graduating from college, 2 men sat proudly in the front row. One wore a simple suit that didn't quite fit his broad shoulders. The other wore a tailored jacket worth more than most cars. Yet in that moment, they looked exactly the same. 2 fathers. 2 lives forever connected by a little girl who had unknowingly healed them both. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, comment your thoughts, and share it with someone who believes that love, not blood, creates a family. Your support helps stories like this reach more people.